I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good. We are here in sunny San Francisco to talk about one of our favorite subjects, lever shifting. You're writing some articles right now.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yes. So I've been playing chromatic music on the lever harp for about 6 years now. And in that process of navigating these chromatic passages, I've come up with tools that have made my process effective, successful, and fun. So I'm excited to talk about some of these tools with you.
Yes, we're going to share 5 tools that we use in aiding us executing lever shift on the harp. Let's start with you.
Yes. So one of the tools I find very useful is realizing because we do most of our lever shifting with the left hand, that sometimes we don't actually have to play all the notes that are written in the bass clef. And in some cases, the piece I actually sent you, I only had notes on beat 1, 2, and 3, and then we had a rest on 4, 5. And that gave you time to then make the lever shift happen without having to rush to make the physical motion to take place. And so in general, when you're looking at left hand and what you're needing to do, look at where you can maybe just play the downbeat chord and then give yourself time and space, or maybe just take off the 8th note at the end of a phrase. There's always ways to modify what the left hand's doing so it can both lever shift and play its part in the left hand with ease.
Yeah, and in the Ranier piece that I'm working with you to adapt from pedal to lever harp, we did exactly that in one of the measure. And it's so amazing how just missing out that 1 or 2 notes can make just enough room to execute the lever change, and you don't really notice it much in the music.
Indeed, indeed. No, most people don't. They only notice that you're having ease playing the part.
Yeah, and on that note, I play a lot of music that has already been transcribed for the lever harp. And oftentimes the person arranging the music will put a little mark to suggest where the lever shift should take place. I find it really helpful to use that as a suggestion only instead of a must do it in here, and play around with where that lever shift would happen for me naturally, both in the music and also sort of in the hand, because the harp is such a visual instrument, and you want the lever shift to happen in a place where you think it should naturally fit into the motion of everything. So I would intentionally play around with where the lever shift should go and find somewhere that is most comfortable for me.
Yes, that is very, very important. When you're having to do lever shifts, you want to make your work easy and not complicated. And actually that really connects to my second favorite tip, which is creating a lever roadmap. And what that means is when you're working on a piece, you actually want to write out on your sheet where the shift will happen. And Victoria, you mentioned how you like to do the shift while playing a note, so you have like 2 actions at the same time. So in music, I often actually line up a diamond where the shift should happen, either above or below the note that I will be playing at the same time. And then to the left of it, I put in the accidental, so it tells the player what direction to shift the lever. And those roadmaps are essential because when you're practicing and you come back 3 days later to the piece, you can remember what you need to do and you can practice the same way every time.
So I usually just write it into my 4-score music and it just travels with the sheet music.
Indeed. And then you can come back to the piece 2 or 3 years down the line, and all you actually have to do is get the notes back into your fingertips and the shapes and motions, but you don't have to figure out all the different shifts again. Why do the extra work?
Yes. And on the note of motion, I like to use my eye as a guide when I execute a lever shift, especially if there's multiple of them. Aim my eye at the lever that I'm shifting and then move my hand up to that spot. If I'm aiming my eye at the lever, I find myself to have a better odds of hitting the right lever. And I also think that, of all the things that are happening in the piece of music, the lever is probably the more critical part, so I want to give it the most attention. So usually I'll use my eyes to guide my hand, and I'll try to make the other hand more automatic so that I can devote my attention to that lever shift.
Want to internalize that physical motion so that then there's that ease when you're playing the piece that your body already knows what it wants to do. We just want to build the consistency. And actually on that point, Ray Poole, both a classically trained pedal harp player but also a lever player, has a wonderful video called Harp Basics Number 5. And his whole exercise is just putting your hands on the soundboard and then looking at the lever you're going to shift and then raising your hand, left hand, to shift that lever. And that practice, that motion, builds the consistency and the muscle memory, because unlike the pedal harp where you have 2 feet and you only have 7 pedals, on lever harp we have up to 36 or 38 levers, and each lever has a very particular position. And so we just have to get comfortable, as you've said, with that motion and bringing our hand up. So yeah, and in terms of getting comfortable when there's more than one lever shift, brings me to my final point, which is sometimes we need to add measures in the music so that we can change from a tonal center, say in the case of Matteo Albéniz's Sonata in Re. Mid through the song we go from the key of C all the way to the key of D. And so we have to change both the C and the F lever in 4 different octaves. So in my recital last year, I added 2 measures and I was playing the right hand, those 8th notes, to keep the forward momentum of the music, while with the left hand shifting all those different octave levers. And that gave me the time I needed. But for some individuals, they might still feel a little rushed in having only, in the case that I put down, 3 measures to achieve all those shifts. So I also suggest another option, which is playing a rolled arpeggiated chord, because that way you have space. It's almost like holding a fermata, where you have a little more space that you can give more time to yourself, even more than 3 measures, and then shift as you need to, quietly, with ease, with enjoyment, to then proceed with the song. So in a lot of cases, like you've mentioned with deciding where a lever shift should happen, your job is to know the tools and then you decide how you want to use them. Do I want to keep going with my right hand and just add a few measures? Or do I want to just do a rolled chord and slowly raise as I lever shift, right? So these are questions that you have to ask yourself so that your process of playing chromatic music is enjoyable.
And what I'm hearing too is that ease. And one of the things that you reminded me is when we're playing a piece that has a lot of lever shift, we don't have to rush. Time can stretch to accommodate those lever shift. And I think we have the tendency to going faster than we actually perceive it to be. So it's good to remind ourselves that we can take that time and space to execute the lever shift. Because I don't think the audience is going to know necessarily that you add in some extra measures or wrote a chord, but it make a big difference for us in terms of making that lever shift.
They will notice if you're frantic. They won't notice if you added time.
That's true.
So it's giving the audience the enjoyable experience of music. That's what they come to hear. And what you need to do to get there is use these tips in a way that are helpful for you.
Yeah. So to read the full article, keep an eye out on Harp Color Music and Folk Harp Journal, and check out Amelia's website. You have a really cool selection of music already that is very lever shifting friendly, we should call that. And you're going to be introducing a book later too, right?
Yeah, later this fall I'm going to release a book that features a variety of levels of lever shifting repertoire.
Yeah,
that's going to be fun.
That could be a good way to get into lever shifting, is to play something that is already transcribed, and then when you're comfortable with that, then making your own transcription.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Thank you for creating the space.